Some of the questions raised here are taken from the book Minimax the Elf. In this book, Minimax invites us all to make the real revolution, that of brains, in order to become real human beings. Question to the author: you have just published Minimax the Elf, a work that is difficult to classify, but would it be possible to present the subjects covered in this book? The essential message of Minimax's teaching seems simple to me. He commits us to becoming first and above all, the human beings that we are not yet. Indeed, we think we are evolving in this meaning by modifying our social organization and economic. However, Minimax tells us this: the organizational system of your society is secondary. So that they are harmonious, they must be formed by harmonious women and men, that is to say human being, conscious, responsible, and in a state of love. The book explains and develops these concepts and describes how Minimax goes about lead me to modify my behaviors and my patterns of thoughts in order to orient me in the direction which leads to becoming a real human being. You wrote Minimax the Elf a few years ago. Why publish it only today? I felt compelled to write it by the urgency of the situation we are facing. Although few realize it, we are experiencing the first effects of the collapse of our civilization with an unprecedented conjunction of triggers, such as climate changes, overexploitation and depletion of energy resources and raw materials, the disproportions in the distribution of wealth, causing uncontrollable migratory flows, as well as social movements, an expanding global demography, pollution of all kinds of air, fresh water, soil, and oceans. Rulers, obsessed with dying growth, powerless to make the appropriate decisions, trapped between the interests of multinationals, the demands of the populations, and of course, the electoral deadlines. This is just to name a few examples. So, I wrote the first part, that of the initiatory tale in the 80s, in which Minimax was already warning us of the upheavals we were going to undergo. At that time, very few people were concerned about the consequences triggered by what we would later call the mass consumer society, but in front of the effects that I have just exposed, it seemed useful to me to develop and publish a more detailed second part, in the form of questions/answers. My hope is that every reader realizes that there is an urgent need to make the real revolution, the revolution of our brains, which must turn to this same objective. An objective first and foremost individual, which, by contributing to the community, will help create a harmonious society made up of individuals aware, responsible, and in a state of love.